So I was preparing the presentation this morning and my PC kept crashing. And I didn't know why until I understood it. It was basically too stunned by the beauty from the three sisters in this city. So clearly that joke did not work. ChatGPT wrote it, so it's not a comedian yet. I will talk today about what's next is now. A little bit taking an outside-in perspective, thinking around how Qlik wants to deliver innovation with all of these big themes that Marius kept talking about today. We are 30 years old, young, depending on how you want to see it. So my story is, I've been with Qlik for 8 years. I am in charge of market intelligence in the strategy team at Qlik. Before that, I was at Gartner for 10 years, covering BI and analytics markets. So I was watching Qlik, observing Qlik, analyzing Qlik. Before that, I actually worked in London for a small research company called Context, and they were using Qlik as well to visualize all of the market research that they were doing. But of course, in these 30 years, we have changed a lot. Now we have 40,000 customers, almost 2,000 partners like InfoTrust and many others. We have we have $1 billion in revenue run rate. And not just $1 billion in revenue run rate, we set out on this mission to touch 1 billion lives. And I think we have successfully done so, especially with all of the sustainability and the corporate social responsibility initiatives that we have. For example, we are the corporate standard in the United Nations, doing things like human trafficking. We are also in C40 cities looking at climate change and many other initiatives like this. But we will need to continue, of course, to change because the world perhaps is more uncertain than it has ever been. I think we're facing, and pardon me for being slightly dramatic, existential threats when we're looking at things like the pandemic, the global conflicts that are ongoing very close to these borders. We have economic hardships, and now the threat of AI as well. The threat and the opportunity, I should say. And as these existential threats are happening, it affects us also in data and analytics and in IT. Because we're moving from what I call a unipolar world increasingly to a multipolar world, also for data. We have the AI arms race and tech decoupling, perhaps even splitting the internet into many different parts. And China racing versus the United States, racing versus Europe, taking different approaches for AI. This means that this notion of multi-cloud moves from a nice to have to an absolute must have. If you're a large bank, you have no choice but to have your data in multiple different data centers because of all of the regulations like GDPR and other local regulations. We see new technologies emerging like Web3 creating much more of distributed architecture and more data coming like the Internet of Things and Industry 3.0. Capturing new data sources that we never thought would be possible before. And of course, in this pandemic, Marius explained that the last meetup was 4 or 5 years ago. Since that time, your architectures have changed a lot, with more software as a service data sources through more than 30,000 applications. So many organizations' architecture looks a little bit like a Jackson Pollock painting, if you've seen that. We can connect in much better ways. Think Elon Musk's Starlink, for example. So you will always be connected And of course, now with AI and the large language models, you will really go out and crawl multiple structured and unstructured data sets. So what this means is, Gartner says, more than 50% of your enterprise critical data will be created and analyzed outside of the data center and cloud. And this means, of course, for generative AI coming onto the scene, just 1 year ago, no one was talking about generative AI. It has emerged so rapidly from the labs into the mainstream. And many people now compare it to all of these paradigm shifts like the World Wide Web, mobile computing, cloud computing, etc. Other people say it's much, much bigger than that. It's the biggest invention since the fire. And clearly, leaders in this space understand this importance. Upwards of 98% of global executives think that this will be a major part of their strategies in the next 3 to 5 years. But there's a big gap here, because only 39% have a formalized AI strategy today. And perhaps rightly so, because there's a lot of insecurities about this technology because of privacy and security concerns. For example, governments. We're just starting to see, especially here in Europe, regulations rolling out. Many of you might have heard of the EU AI Act, which looks at different AI technologies, and some of them are banned, like real-time facial recognition, or social credit scores like they have in China. Other ones are considered highly risky, like ChatGPT. What this means basically is that the EU wants insights into how those models works and where the data comes from. So more regulations coming. We also see individuals and organizations suing over the use of proprietary data with these generative AI technologies. You have Stability being sued by Getty Images because it has just gone out and crawled all of those images that belong to Getty Images. You have individuals like Sarah Silverman, the comedian, you may have heard of her, and many others. I think Ian Rankin, thriller author, are suing because generative AI is just going out and grabbing all of the content of their books and can summarize that content. And then we have corporate IT being very cautious. Many of the largest companies in the world, think Samsung, Apple, Amazon, are actually restricting their employees right now to use ChatGPT. And this is because AI is only as good as the data that feeds it. Those of you who have been in this space for a long time know that we've been speaking about garbage in, garbage out. In this world of AI, garbage in, garbage out becomes 10x or 100x more multiplied and accentuated than it used to be. How many of you have heard of the 4 V's of big data? It was coined by my former colleague, Doug Laney. Any? See some people here in the front? It's basically that big data is about volume, velocity, the speed of the data, variety of the data, and then veracity, which is a fancy word for validity or quality of the data. I think since this term was coined about 20 years ago, we have solved for volume, right? You can just add more servers. You can just add more capacity in the cloud. So it's infinitely scalable. We have solved for velocity. You mentioned it as well, Maris. There's a lot of technologies like real-time change data capture, like Kafka, Pulsar, Confluent, and many other technologies that can do this really well right now. We have not solved for variety or the metadata problem for the different data sources. And we have definitely not solved, as I just explained, for the validity and the quality of this data. So we kind of need to move from big data to better data. So this is the title of the presentation, right, was What's Next is Now. If I have to summarize it, and I hope you can see this because it's kind of a busy slide, these S-curves, and Marius explained it quite well, that we've seen this technology, the enterprise data warehouse, and the median is the message. The way the data is structured is the way that the analytics and reporting will be structured. So you had to build these semantic layers on top of the enterprise data warehouse. Then you moved into the marts, and that was the dawn of data discovery. And all of a sudden you could do much more agile analytics. This evolved into visual analytics and dashboards. And on the data side, we saw more kind of scalability with MapReduce and Hadoop. And right now we're in this inflection point here with the second curve and the third curve, where we're moving from cloud data warehouses increasingly to very distributed and fragmented data landscapes, which I explained right at the beginning. And that requires new architectures. Many people are speaking about data fabrics, data meshes. Have you heard about these terms, anyone? A few of you. And the analytics is also getting much more distributed in this world of generative AI. And also a huge opportunity in connecting generative AI with intelligent automation. So that's kind of how we see this evolving, and also touching the next two V's of variety and validity of the data. So even though I started saying there are some existential threats that we're facing, I'm actually quite optimistic. I'm certainly optimistic for all of us in the room here. If you think that we've been busy up until this point in creating data, curating that data, putting insights on that data for human decision making and different outcomes in organizations, now you will increasingly be evolved in doing all of this for a world of generative AI as well. This is opening new budgets in organizations. It's a new imperative, and this will be a huge opportunity for anyone that is involved in this space. I'm also optimistic because I look at what our customers can do. Pharma companies, Novo Nordisk, now the biggest and most valuable European company, doing incredible things in Qlik. Or Novartis, basically putting sensors on patients so that they can look and develop medicines in a much more agile fashion. Or why not Airbus for airplane manufacturing? To create an airplane requires 4 million different parts. And they're using Qlik to kind of optimize the supply chain for how those parts should be building these airplanes, drawing from more than 150 different data sources. Talk about combining data in a fragmented world. And I'm optimistic because of large banks doing fraud models that they simply couldn't do in any other tools. And we see a few common denominators or themes for these successful organizations. Certainly they're all data-driven, meaning that data analytics and now AI is a #1 investment priority for these companies. We see that they are AI adopters. So they've moved out of the labs increasingly to production when it comes to traditional BI. More than 50% use AI to improve decision making. And they are now experimenting with generative AI as well. And we see that they are resilient, meaning that they are investing even in difficult times. Those companies that did that in the last big crisis around 2007, 2008, when it came out, they had a 25% better earnings before interest profitability than those that did not. And there are a few other themes that we see in these organizations. The one is, in this fragmented world, you have to connect everything. Not just putting all of this data into one place and use that, because there's always new data coming. And for that, you have to use techniques like APIs, real-time data retrieval, etc. And we see data gravity shifting increasingly from data-centric to application-centric. And as I explained, we have more than 30,000 new software as a service applications. So there's a huge opportunity in basically not just looking at parts of your data, but a wider scope of your data. We see that these organizations are making the data business ready, transforming it and moving it to a place where users live. It could be moving it from old legacy data sources to modernizing applications where the information consumers actually live. And there's a big trend in the industry right now. It's called data as a product, where you are transforming it and you're treating the data as an asset, as data capital that can even be monetized at one point, can be a traded good. So that's what's called data as a product. And then you're making it business ready. We see these organizations not just looking in the rear view mirror of the car, but facing front as well. Not taking away anything from reporting, diagnostic analytics, or dashboards, filtering and things like that, which you could call diagnostic analytics. Why has it happened and what has happened? But increasingly, you want to answer the question, what will happen? And what do we do about it? This has been a difficult thing because then you had to give it to someone else, the data scientist, who did all of this in a completely separate environment. But Gartner now says that data science machine learning, that third part of the S-curve and the second S-curve, they're merging with regular analytics. And more than 50% of organizations will do all of this in one platform. So that is definitely a trend in the industry. And it's kind of crazy that you have to move the data out of where people live. So there are more opportunities, and Morgan will speak a lot about this in his session as well, through things like auto ML. And then the final piece of the puzzle, the last mile, is you don't just want to analyze the data, you actually want to act on that data. What do we do about it? And if you have real-time or near real-time data, then you can react very quickly in the moment of when you can actually take a decision. And even if you have the foresight, pre-act, do write-backs, do scenario analysis. What do we do? And then you can basically make a decision before something has actually happened. And we see huge opportunities here as well in connecting AI with automation increasingly going forward. And then trust, right? Whatever you call it, if you want to call it veracity, validity, trust, this is the theme that I think if we have another meeting like this in 3 or 4 years' time, this will be the dominating theme that everyone will be speaking about. We haven't seen any massive corporate failures yet with everything that's going on with AI, but I think it will happen, and it's going to put it right in front center of the discussion. Because, as I said, data quality and trust becomes 10 or 100x more important in the world of generative AI. So this is definitely a big area for organizations and for the world of AI. And this is why we have acquired Talent. They have best-in-class data quality capabilities. And right now, we are welcoming a series of very talented individuals from this company, Talent, and we are doing it in a very cautious way, where Talent customers can keep using the Talent tool very undisrupted, and Qlik users can use Qlik very undisrupted. On the back end, we're doing the integrations slowly, and then by next year, we will have one Qlik with one cloud platform that can basically deliver all of these capabilities. And we are a recognized by Gartner leader in the Magic Quadrant now in analytics and business intelligence platforms, data integration tools, and data quality solutions. That makes us completely unique in the industry with this new combined platform. And then the final piece that organizations are doing is that they are AI enhanced. But there was that big delta, right, between the 98% and the 38%. Well, we see a really big opportunity here in delivering secure and governed AI to our 40,000 customers in a trusted way. And this is why we have launched Stage, which is kind of a platform and a stage, like the name refers to, that enables you to deploy all of these very powerful capabilities in your environment. And it's a series of principles and philosophies, but it's also basically looking at three key tenets. One, build a trusted data foundation for AI. It's only as good as the data that feeds it, right? We showed that. So that's a huge part of it. Find and act on insights with AI-enhanced analytics. This is providing you with AI insights in your workflows as you're doing the analysis, as you're making the decisions. And three, we should also help you build and deploy your AI and advanced analytics increasingly. So as I said, this is a series of principles and of AI. We're also putting all of the AI capabilities that we've developed over the past 5 years, and we are a leader in augmented analytics, into this. But we're also launching a set of new capabilities here, like key driver analysis and plain language, natural language expression editor that can do things like set analysis in just plain language. And I think, Morgan, you're going to show some of that. Yes. And of course, we're looking at further capabilities. For example, building out an entire application just from plain language. We're looking at all of these very powerful capabilities under the umbrella of Stage. And here is the power of the platform. If we would have just been Qlik, the analytics company, we could have only addressed all this little piece here and all of the AI capabilities. Now we get these red pluses from talent. So more app connectors, more ETL and data transformation, more data preparation, best-in-class quality and governance, APIs, and orchestration. And we can infuse this entire platform with different AI capabilities and finding different synergies, perhaps providing a lot of insights already in the data pipeline before you've even thought about creating a dashboard, or after creating a dashboard into your workflows. So this is the power of having a platform combined with AI. And of course, it's very important for us to be agnostic and independent. That is our differentiating oxygen compared to the large stacks. So we want to keep working with AWS, Databricks, Google, Microsoft, Snowflake. They're all strategic partners to us right now. But we don't know what these logos are going to look like, especially in a world of generative AI in a couple of years' time. So that's why it's really important to continue to be agnostic. All right, with that said, if we're just going into 2023, where are we placing our bets as a company? What are we really focusing on? Well, clearly building an AI and ML ready data pipeline. Not just analytics, but infusing the entire pipeline with AI and ML. We want to enable adoption of cloud services. One of our principles is the data principle, which means that we respect where your data sits in this fragmented world. We understand that some of your data isn't even allowed to move to the cloud. We want to continue to support our client-managed on-premises customers. But of course, we also want to help you to move to the cloud. And you will benefit from many of these innovations that we're putting in the cloud, which is also coming to on-premises, like many of the visualization capabilities, for example. We want to deliver best-in-class capabilities. So it's easy to say, but IDC did a survey with enterprise customers asking them, who do you want to buy data and analytics from? And about 10% said that they want to buy analytics from small point solutions. About 30% said that they want to buy everything from one vendor, a stack. 60% said that they want to buy best-in-class capabilities from one or a few vendors. And this is what we want to provide. Remember that magic quadrant? We're a leader in all of these different areas, providing best-in-class capabilities. You can get all of that from one vendor. This is what we want to keep building out. And then we want, of course, reach more users for more value, and then create this modern data fabric that I spoke about. And before I get into a little bit more about that, there's an important point I want to make around data integration and quality. And that is that we will always support an open data pipeline. So just like we did with Ittunity, just as we have done organically, and just as we will do now with Talend, is to always support all use cases, analytics-driven or otherwise, irrespective of the analytical tool of choice that you have. We know that some of you are Tableau shops. We know that many of you are Power BI shops. It's a messy, distributed landscape out there. And we want to support all of these technologies. So, a data fabric for modern architectures. There's a lot of talk about data fabrics and data meshes. That was the end of that kind of third S-curve on the data side. It's really about providing some sort of a semantic structure to this very distributed data landscape that we have right now, and deliver a unified, integrated, and intelligent end-to-end data platform to support new and emerging use cases. And this could be automating data management functions like ingestion, transformation, orchestration, governance, security, data preparation, quality, and curation. I think this definition came from Gartner, or if it was Forrester. And if you're listening to it, we can tick all of those boxes. So we're absolutely focusing in on building out and helping our customers build powerful data fabrics for modern architectures. And we want to have that agility for constantly changing requirements. Look at what happened to IA, infrastructure as a service, right? Marius, you spoke about Snowflake and Databricks becoming very powerful, very performant technologies in the cloud. In addition to that, you have the stack vendors. So we've seen 2 to 4 cloud data warehouses forming, and 2 to 4 infrastructure stacks. For generative AI, we kind of see the same theme, don't we? We see OpenAI, we see Google with Bard and Bedrock, and like all of these foundational principles that they're building. We see Amazon slightly behind, but they just invested $4 billion. Actually, Bedrock is Amazon. $4 billion into Anthropic. So it's a war, it's a race ongoing right now. Are these going to be the 2 to 4 dominators? Other people think no. Who owns the World Wide Web today? We all kind of jointly own it. And many people think that open source generative AI will be the dominating model. Meta is already kind of releasing their Llama 2 foundational model as an open source version. And many people think that this will be the dominating version. So no one really knows, and we have to be agile for these constantly changing requirements. And then, of course, providing that enterprise-grade trust is extremely important. So some of the top use cases that we see here is real-time data movement. This is Qlik Attunity's pedigree. We've done this for 20 years, and we've been the best-in-class vendor doing this. And this is a trend and a motion that continues to be very relevant. How many of you are SAP shops? Have SAP in your organizations? I see several hands going up. SAP, mainframe, all of these legacy sources, there's this big trend of helping to, in real time, replicate that data into your modernized data environments where people actually live and people do the analytics. So this is what Qlik can provide, and we're helping large corporations do this. But we realized about 10 years ago that that is not enough. We need the T as well, the transformation. And now there are all kinds of opportunities to push that transformation down into these different sources where you want to move the data. Without a lot of manual effort, you can automate a lot of that. And that is the ELT motion and the data warehouse and lake modernization that we can help organizations with. So that's a huge theme as well. And then data quality, preparation, and cleansing. Again, now we have a best-in-class tool in this space, a leader in the Magic Quadrant with significant market share and unique proprietary features, like, for example, a trust score that can go out and crawl all of your data and basically give it a score for how good the quality of this data is. And then we see API creation. In some cases, you don't want to move the data. You don't even own the data. You just want to talk to different data sets. And from an integration perspective, Qlik can help you with this. And we can also help with all kinds of operational downstream ETL capabilities as well. Perhaps turning things into CSVs or into Parquet files or different proprietary formats for retail, telecommunications, etc. And that is that trusted foundation for AI. Because if you're moving your data to where you're actually using the most up-to-date, the most modern AI right now, whether that be TensorFlow or, not Dreamweaver, SageMaker, I always confuse them, SageMaker, or any other sort of advanced analytics from different emerging platforms, we can move the data there so that you can do that AI. We can provide data integration and data quality. Gartner actually complimented Talent for being a leading vendor in already providing all kinds of tagging and personally identifiable information and other things that is AI enhanced when it comes to talent. So doing the data quality in a world of AI and being AI enhanced is also providing that trusted foundation. And then finally, you want to use these enterprise LLMs in a governed fashion in your organization in a trusted way. So everything that we can do from a cataloging perspective, a business logic perspective, etc., will be super important here. All right, so that's my talk about the data opportunity, which is huge. But we continue to invest and prioritize development and research when it comes to analytics as well. We're a leader in the Magic Quadrant for 13 years running now with Qlik. And it's certainly something that we see a lot of opportunity with in this world of AI. Because it's kind of ironic, right? We spoke about how much we've changed in the last 30 years. But our key differentiator, I would still argue, is that purpose-built analytics engine, the associative engine that Qlik has had since day one when it was called QuickView and basically sold to the first customers Tetra Pak. Meaning that you, and many of you are Qlik users know this, it's a non-linear. You don't have to do a SQL type of query, but it's an engine optimized for analytics. Not just showing you what you're clicking on, but how that's related and what's not related as well. It's lighting up your entire data estate, what many refer to as the green, white, and gray. Now, when you get it, you get it. You get the power of it. But we as a company have certainly struggled for 30 years to try to explain this to customers so that they get it. But with everything that's going on in AI, we see huge opportunities to basically supercharge this differentiation through all kinds of augmentation capabilities that we can do and leveraging the power of this engine. And then, of course, since we own that entire platform, we see opportunities of providing all kinds of action, alerting, and insights before you've built a dashboard or a visualization, and after you've built a dashboard or visualization through automation. So top use cases here are, of course, visualizations and dashboards. And if I go back about 2 years, I would say that maybe we were actually, if I'm self-critical, slightly behind some of the competition here. But now we have really doubled down on everything when it comes to visualization enhancements. And a lot of this is driven by ideation, by you basically providing suggestions for what we should develop. And it's things like customizations, styling options, properties of charts, font sizes, legends, colors. Dare I say it looks more and more like QlikView with all kinds of customization capabilities. Why? In a world of AI, you can now basically go to ChatGPT and say, create the visualization for me. That's a commodity. Building simple, easy visualizations is not that important anymore. But building rich, powerful applications that you build once and you use multiple times that drive your business, where the human is involved in the loop, that continues to be differentiating. And we see a lot of opportunity here because this, together with the engine, is the power of Qlik. And of course, reporting and alerting. We will continue to prioritize that. And I think, Morgan, you will touch upon that as well. It could be basically create a bursted reports into PowerPoint, or it could be O365 bursted reporting capabilities. This is an early access program right now. So if you are interested in this, reach out to one of the product managers and we will put you in touch with the people building this. And again, we see a lot of opportunity here for different ways that this could help in a governed and in a secure way drive a lot of AI in your organization. Generative AI is woven through our experience. For example, through analysis types, allowing users to auto-generate the best visualizations, natural language insights, and even dashboards in just a few clicks. We'll add more capabilities inside this as well. For example, trending and forecasting and basic expressions, as I said earlier, in Expression Editor by simply asking a question. We have natural language generation on a sheet. You can just drag it onto a chart and it will give you an explanation of the key insights that you can find in a certain chart. And this will be added into more places, as well as the Insight Advisor, which basically will be updated with all of these features that you can now do in generative AI. We see a lot of opportunities for evolving Insight Advisor, but using it in a secure, private large language model type of way going forward. And we are providing now an Insight Advisor API for embedding it into places like Microsoft Teams and improving the business logic here as well. So that's the generative capabilities. But then all of these exploratory capabilities as well. We've spoken a fair bit about AutoML today. Basically, dragging these key kind of statistical and ML capabilities onto existing data sets is a very powerful capability. And we see that those that experiment actually deploy in many cases. So customers are voting with their hands saying, this is a powerful feature. And of course, we're going to keep adding connectivity and extensibility to all of these advanced analytics platforms, TensorFlow, etc. But also, we have an OpenAI connector out there today. And we have an OpenAI automation block. And we're adding an OpenAI Azure connector as well. And many further coming down the pipe for everything that has to do with generative AI. And we're already seeing really interesting and exciting use cases here. It could be, for example, sentiment analysis, where you're basically asking ChatGPT to analyze what a customer thinks and then provide a customized answer for that sentiment, and then through automations connect that with email, connect that with Salesforce and other systems in your organization. So combining that external data and the power of generative AI together with your internal data is very powerful. Okay, so that was basically how we're thinking about bringing what's next to you now. We're developing a modern data fabric in this uncertain world where your data estate is very distributed. And our belief is that it will continue to be distributed. We want to provide you with AI-powered analytics in a governed and secure way already today. And under the umbrella of Stage, we'll keep adding very capable functionalities and best-in-class agnostic, cloud-agnostic, but increasingly AI-agnostic functionalities as well. Because frankly, the future is coming on so quickly. I took a 3-week vacation. I'm Swedish. I do that, and all of the British and American bosses are moaning, but I do it every year. I come back, and I'm shocked by how much the world is exponentially changing right now. So it's so important to be agile for cloud, for data warehouses, for the different data sets, but also for the AI as it's evolving. So that's basically how we see what's next. And it will be really interesting for all of us to meet up. Maybe in 30 years' time, who knows? We might take our reverse aging pills and look really good and young and fresh, or we might be on a different planet, who knows? According to Elon Musk at least. And we can discuss how all of this space has evolved. But this is how we see how we can bring the future to you now. Thank you very much.